Members of the commission, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the October 9, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Bob Sutton. I'm the chair, and I'd like for commission members and staff to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Zara Nasser.
Jeffrey Haynes.
Karen Burdett.
Julie Pelletier.
This is Commissioner Dolman.
Michael Galway.
Dan Brugert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
Laura DiPasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a sort of an unusual one for us. It is a nomination or a recommendation to the State Historic Preservation Office for nomination of the River Road Unitarian Church to the National Register of Historic Places. We are asked to do this as one of our roles as certified local government. If we agree that this should be done, we will recommend to the State Historic Preservation Office and the county executive that this property should be nominated to the National Register. Now, one thing you need to understand is that they have not asked that this property should be listed in our historic preservation system here in the county. It's just to be listed as a National Register nomination. Are there any questions about this? Okay. I will make a nomination as chair that we recommend as the certified local government that this property be submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office and to the county executive, recommending that it be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places for listing. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Burdett. I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. This is passed. We appreciate the work that has gone into this. It's really a very, very well done nomination, and it's a wonderful historic building. So we appreciate the work that's gone into this. The next item on our agenda is historic area work permits. Have the permits been advertised?
Yes, Chair Sutton, they were advertised in the September 25th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. The first items that we will consider are ones that we believe can be expedited for review. If there's anyone who would like to speak to any of these, especially if you oppose any of these, and you have not given your name to the staff, we would like for you to do that at this point. Without that, let me go ahead and tell the properties that we're considering. Item 2A at 7006 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. 2B at 309 Market Street, Brookville. 2D at 28 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. 2E at 11 East Irving Street, Chevy Chase. 2F at 5918 Cedar Parkway, Chevy Chase. 1G at 2130 Spencerville Road, Spencerville. 1H at 316 Tulip Avenue, Tacoma Park. 1I at 34 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park. 2J at 15 West Lenox Street, Chevy Chase. 2K at 9919 Sutherland Road, Silver Spring. 2L at 7425 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. 2N at 11 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with the staff reports based upon the record before us and in consideration of recommendations of the local advisory panels and including any conditions recommended by staff. HOP number 1077218 at 7006 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. HOP number 1075954 at 309 Market Street, Brookville. HOP number 1084454 at 28 Hickory Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1084673 at 11 East Irving Street, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1084766 at 5918 Cedar Parkway, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1077198, revision at 2130 Spencerville Road, Spencerville. Hop number 1085063 at 316 Tulip Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1085271 at 34 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1085874 at 15 West Lenox Street, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1086318 at 9919 Sutherland Road, Silver Spring. Hop number 1086430 at 7425 Carroll Avenue, Tacoma Park. And hop number 1086775 at 11 Columbia Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Is there a second?
It's Commissioner Haynes, I second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All of these have been approved. We appreciate the work you've done to get them to the position where we can so easily approve them. The next item are hearings on, the first one is item 2C at 3820 Warner Street, Kensington. Is there a staff report on this?
Yes, Chair, there is a staff report. This is Laura DiPasquale with the staff. This is a historic area work permit application for retroactive approval of driveway and window alterations at 3820 Warner Street. The property is listed as a primary resource in the Kensington Historic District. It was constructed around 1902 and will be reviewed under standards for review, the approved and adopted amendment to the Master Plan for Historic Preservation for the Kensington Historic District, Vision of Kensington, Chapter 24A, and Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. So the current owners, Community Options, purchased the property in May 2024. In July 2024, the HPC staff was alerted to paving of the driveway at the property without a hop, and the Department of Permitting Services issued a notice of violation. Subsequently, the applicants contacted the HPC staff, and it was determined that in addition to the driveway paving, the applicants also undertook third-story window alterations without a hop. The applicants seek retroactive approval for these alterations. So here we have some before and after photos of the driveway before and after paving. Previously, the property had a pervious gravel driveway. The new driveway consists of 3 inches of machine-laid and compressed asphalt covering approximately the same footprint as the previous gravel driveway, but also extending up to and around the base of a prominent honey locust tree in the front yard. No changes were made to the sidewalk or curb cut. And neighboring properties, including other primary resources, have similarly paved driveways. Shifting to the windows, along the east elevation, the applicants removed 2 vertically oriented 6-pane casement windows with exterior molding and installed horizontally oriented vinyl sliders with aluminum capping in altered openings. The new windows are shorter and slightly wider than those of the original openings, and the sill heights of the windows were raised, making the windows higher than the originals. As you can see in these photos, a new siding that's proud of the existing siding and does not align with the surrounding siding was installed over the infilled openings, leaving the location of the original windows visible. Here are 2 interior views, this one a little bit skewed from the MLS photos in 2024, and on the right here from the applicants showing the placement after. In terms of findings and recommendations, staff found that the driveway paving is in approximately the same footprint as the previous gravel driveway, does not have a substantial visual effect on the historic resource or district. Staff's primary concern was with the impact the paving may have on the mature honey locust tree in the front yard, because according to the vision for Kensington, the district is characterized by widely spaced houses set on expansive lots among mature trees and pleasant vistas. After meeting with staff, the applicants consulted an arborist who prepared a report which was included in your submission materials that finds that the damage to the tree was minimal and the species of tree is resilient. The arborist report recommends use of a tree growth regulator application to support root growth and 2 years of spring and fall biostimulant treatments to amend the soil and improve root uptake of nutrients, as well as 2 years of annual monitoring. Staff finds that provided the tree did not harm mature, or the paving did not harm mature trees, the driveway paving does not substantially alter the setting or garden-like character of the property, and is in keeping with the vision, as well as Chapter 24A 8B1. And furthermore, it did not remove historic materials or alter spatial relationships that characterize the property, in keeping with Standard 2. Staff recommends approval of the paving with one condition, that the HPC require the applicants to hand remove the asphalt at the base of the tree a minimum of 6 inches from the trunk, and to implement the arborist's recommendations to ensure preservation of the tree and landscape. Regarding the windows, in discussions with staff, the applicants explained that the window replacement was a requirement of the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Administration and Office of Healthcare Quality Guidelines for the room to be considered a bedroom. The applicants did not provide the size of the earlier windows nor correspondence with code officials citing the earlier windows as preventing the room from qualifying as a bedroom, but they did provide the OCHQ FAQs, which included a question and answer identifying windows used as secondary means of escape as needing to meet or exceed 5.7 square feet. The application identifies the newly installed windows as measuring 22.5 inches by 22 inches, which staff notes comes to a total of 3.44 square feet, less than the egress requirement of 5.7 square feet. Furthermore, the installed windows are sliders, which creates an even lower net clear opening, so staff doubts that the windows that were installed do in fact meet egress requirements. Staff notes that the previous windows were casements, and while lower and marginally narrower than the new windows, would likely have had a comparable or greater net clearance than the new windows. Staff finds that while building code requirements such as egress are outside of the HPC's purview, the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines do acknowledge that code-required work may impact historic properties and include recommended and not recommended practices related to code-required work. So those include identifying the building's historic or character-defining exterior features, and complying with life safety codes in a manner that is consistent with the historic character of the property. I won't read the whole citation for that. Staff does not find that the installed windows or method of installation are compatible with the historic character, but suggests that windows that resemble the proportions, features, and details of the historic window openings but are egress code compliant in size could be compatible with the historic property. Egress window replacements are more commonly approved by the HPC, typically with double hung windows being replaced by casement windows, and such windows could be considered as part of a new HOP application. In terms of the vision of Kensington, staff notes that the window sash that were replaced do not appear to have been original, but that the frames were, and that the style and proportions of the windows were in keeping with the style of the historic property and of similar houses in the district. The vision notes that exterior moldings are common of the Queen Anne style of the building, and the windows that were removed followed the patterns and vertical orientation with exterior molding, and the new windows that are horizontally oriented and out of keeping with window types utilized in the 19th century and other windows on the building. Staff further finds that the window alterations removed historic siding and trim materials and are not compatible with the historic property in materials, features, or proportions, failing to satisfy Secretary of the Interior Standards 2 and 9. And as previously noted, looking at Chapter 24A 8B, the proposal removed historic materials. The proposed material is incompatible in material and design and installation method for the new windows with the character, nature, and architectural features of the historic resource, and is detrimental to the purposes of this chapter. In terms of the application does not demonstrate that the alterations in any way enhance or aid in the protection, preservation, or enhancement of the historic resource, or are necessary in order that unsafe conditions or health hazards be remedied, so it fails to satisfy these conditions. And the applicants do not demonstrate that the proposal is necessary in order that the owner not be deprived of reasonable use of the property or suffer undue hardship. nor that the general public welfare is better served by granting the permit than by the preservation of the historic property, failing to meet Chapter 24A8, 5, and 6. And in absence of these conditions, staff finds that the window alterations are inappropriate, inconsistent, and detrimental to the ultimate protection of the historic resource and district and must be denied under Chapter 24A8A. So again, staff recommends approval of the paving with conditions, but denial of the window installation. Finally, I'll note that we did not receive comments from the Kensington LAP, but did receive public testimony from an adjacent property owner, which was included in your packets. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
It's Commissioner Galway.
Commissioner Galway, sorry.
Do you know what the width of the the original window was?
I do not. In looking at the opening kind of size based on the exterior trim that was or the new siding that was applied over there, and the kind of just comparison of the windows here and the before and the after, I think they were probably around 18 to 20 inches wide.
Okay, and then the width of the new window installed, do you know what that dimension is?
22, around
Okay.
22.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Commissioner Burdett.
Commissioner Burdett.
From the photographs, but the before and after, they obviously did not attempt to meet or match the trim detail around the window. Do we know if that trim detail was original or not? And that trim could be easily replicated. It's a shame we've lost the original, but it could be replicated.
It could, yes.
Okay, and understanding that with the windows they've got in place now, they actually don't have the room to properly put the trim back.
Correct, and it does also exist on the other gable end as well.
So the gables don't match anymore?
Not anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I would invite the owner or owner's representative to come forward. The name I have is Destiny Smith. If you could come forward, sit at the table up here and where there's a microphone. And if you could turn on the microphone and push the button till the light comes on and give us your name, we will allow, you have 7 minutes to do your testimony. And you can either do a testimony, answer questions, whatever you prefer. And at the end of that, we'll probably be asking you questions as well. So please.
Yes, my name is Destiny Smith, and I'm here to represent Community Options. So I really just had a couple of quick questions. I understand for the driveway, we just need to move 6 inches from around the locust tree. So I guess how does that work to remediate with you guys? Like to have that change completed?
Pardon, were you asking a question of staff?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was just trying to get clarification for, so that way we're meeting the requirements from you guys, what is needed for the driveway. So do we contact the HPC or what do we do? Once
At
it's
the end of
completed?
this, you will be in contact with the Historic Preservation staff,
Okay,
and they will, first of all, we'll have a record of this, of all of our comments. You contact the staff, correct? And they will answer questions like that. I think it probably that's probably the most time conserving option for you.
okay. But yeah,
And it also depends on how we vote. So that's another part of it, okay?
okay, yeah, because we're fine with going along with, you guys' recommendations for both the window and for the driveway. So I don't have anything else to add, unless there's
So-
anything else you guys needed.
So you are, let me get this straight. So you are willing to do what the staff has recommended, both for the driveway and for the windows. Is that correct?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Now, with that, do we have any questions of Ms. Smith? Now, I have a procedural question, which is, your recommendation from staff is that we approve one condition for the driveway and we deny the windows. However, if the applicant is willing to comply with what the recommendation of staff is for the windows, do we need to separate those two, or can we either approve or deny the whole project in one piece?
This is Rebecca Ballo for the record. The commission you can make a motion, again, that mirrors the staff recommendation, that the hop for the paving be approved with one condition, and that the portion of the hop for the window installation be denied, subject to the criteria that we've laid out for you in the report. And then once it's denied, the applicant will work with us to come into compliance. So we can work with them separately to help choose a window and replicate the frame, because once it's denied, you don't have another application in front of you. You don't have another application in front of you to consider tonight. It's not as if the applicant has asked you to consider a different kind of window or anything like that. So once it's denied, we'll work to get them into compliance, basically replicating what was there before. If
Okay.
they want something different than what was there before, then that would come back as another HOP application for a change.
Now, we would have the authority, as I understand it, to, if there's a recommendation for a denial, but we don't agree with that because the property owners said that they will do what you have recommended they should do to begin with, how does that work?
Well, you could make a recommendation to approve what they have installed. That's the application that's in front of
Okay,
you, is
okay.
that they've asked for approval for what they have installed.
Okay, okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Smith from commission members? Okay. Do I have a motion?
This is Commissioner Burdett. I make a motion that for HOP number 1086425 at 3820 Warner Street in the Kensington Historic District, that we approve the driveway paving, retroactive HOP for the driveway repaving, with the staff's condition that 6 inches of the paving be removed from around the tree trunk in a manner that does not harm the tree at all. And this would be based on 24A8B1, because the paving will not substantially alter the features, and 5, the owner will not be deprived of reasonable use or suffer undue hardship. And then we deny the retroactive HOP, or we deny the change to the windows because they were done without any approval or consideration by staff. They do not apparently comply with the egress requirements that would be the jurisdictional requirement, and that the windows have substantially altered the features. They have not solved an unsafe condition. The owner will not be deprived of reasonable use or suffer undue hardship by this denial of the windows, and that the general welfare is not supported, the historic general welfare has not been supported by this change to the windows.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Haynes, I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. And with that, you I hope, understand that you can work with staff to come to come, I think, come before us with a new hop. Is that correct?
If the applicant replicates exactly what was there before, patches the siding, puts in, all new wood window trim, but matches what was on the other gable and puts a window back to match what was there before, that wouldn't need to come back
Okay.
to you.
Thank you. So if you work with staff and do what Ms. Ballo has suggested, we will, we will look forward to seeing this finished product. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is item number 2M at 3904 Washington Street, Kensington. Is there a staff, this is, I think we need to have a little bit of an explanation exactly what this is that's before us, if you wouldn't mind, staff report on this.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. I'll just give a very abbreviated explanation because we do not have a PowerPoint for you this evening on this. This is an application for the installation of a solar shingle roof. The staff has recommended approval. It is our understanding that the application has been pulled from the consent agenda, not because the applicant objects to the staff recommendation in any way, but the applicant wanted to bring forward for the HPC's consideration the issue of whether or not the work qualifies for the county's historic rehabilitation tax credit.
Okay, are there any questions of staff on this? I believe the owner is here, Al Carr. You'd like to come forward and make sure the microphone is on and state your name for the record.
I believe it's on. Yes, good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Al Carr, for the record, and I'll be brief. By signing up, I realized I've pulled myself off the consent agenda. The staff report says it all, but I guess there are like 5 solar hops this evening. Is that a record? I mean, it sounds like a lot.
It actually might be a record, yeah.
So I think I attribute that. The county has been pushing this solar switch, which is a regional buying consortium for solar power. So that might be why you're seeing so many of these come through. And I applied through that same program for solar switch for a conventional solar system. And then I realized that my roof that I replaced about 20 years ago is worn, is probably going to need to be replaced within the next couple of years anyway. So I also got this quote for the solar shingles, which is replacing the roof with a different roof where the shingles are some of the shingles are solar. So, and I know this is not for tonight, but as Rebecca said, just wanted to plant a seed in your brain about this question of the tax credit. The rules perhaps were written before solar shingles were a thing, and I'm sure that's something for a future meeting, but did want to just bring it to your attention. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Carr? Commissioner Burdett.
You're using the Tesla solar roof, but did you look at any of the other, at least one other manufacturer that I'm aware of that is doing a similar solar shingle roof?
I have not, but yeah, I've heard there's another manufacturer, but I'm not sure who the contractors or the distributors are for that product.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank, but
Yeah,
I know there is one out there.
okay.
And their product is being used in the county, but again, never paid much attention, so.
Okay.
Can I ask how long it will take you to get your Tesla roof products? Isn't there a waiting list?
How long will it be to install? I'm not sure what the interval is for installation.
The last time someone came through, there was an extended waiting period to get the product. So we didn't know if that was still a problem.
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Carr? Commissioner Pelletier?
Thank you. This is Commissioner Pelletier. What's the justification for a historic tax credit on the solar roof? Or what's your interpretation?
Yeah, so my understanding of the tax credit is that if you're, replacing something in kind, that the tax credit applies, but the tax credit doesn't apply for things like electrical work. So a solar roof is, to me, sort of falls into the gray area. It is, it's a roof.
Well, what's your roof now?
It's asphalt shingles.
Okay.
So, it does have, some of the shingles are solar, but some of the shingles are not. Other parts of it are not electrical. In the middle of the night when the sun is not shining, it's just a roof. Yeah, so that was my thinking on the tax credit.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, I would welcome a motion.
This is Commissioner Burdett, and I make a motion that we approve HOP number 1086622 at 3904 Washington Street, Kensington, in the Kensington Historic District, that based on 24A 8B, that let me think about this. The work will enhance or aid in protecting, preserving, or utilizing the resource, and the general welfare is better supported by granting the proposal.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Pelletier, a second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. And I would ask staff if they could prepare a recommendation to the commission by, I think, November might be reasonable, a reasonable time, on whether you think this may or may not qualify for tax credit.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. We can do that.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Carr. Appreciate you coming forward. The next item on our agenda is number 3A at 10012 Menlo Avenue in Silver Spring, and this is the first preliminary consultation. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is, Chair Sutton. Give me 1 second, please. This is the preliminary consultation for 10012 Menlo Avenue, Silver Spring. It's in the Capitol View Historic District. This is a nominal resource, which means it's post-1935. This house was constructed in 1946, and the HOP is to be reviewed under Chapter 24A, the Capitol View Park and Vicinity Master Plan Amendment, and the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation. So the applicant proposes to construct a second story above the existing house, demolish a circa 2003 rear addition, and remove several trees on site. This is an existing house. It's a ranch with a one-bay garage that was enclosed to create living space, you see on the right. And this is the rear of the house. There's a significant grade change. And what you see on the right side is the non-historic addition that is proposed for demolition. Just along the block, you see there are two ranches also constructed in 1946 to the left of the subject property, which is, oops, I'm sorry. Got to. Okay. You see the subject property with the arrow underneath it. It's largely obscured by a number of trees that are built directly or planted immediately adjacent to the subject property. And then looking from the north down, you see there are two-story buildings. We'll circle back to those later. Immediately across the street, we have two more two-story houses. The one on the left had a second story installed about 2010. And then the house on the right was a 1.5-story Cape Cod that was demolished in 2005. And it had the existing house was constructed in 2008. And then this is another house on the property built in the 60s. The proposed materials for the second story include fiber cement panels, architectural shingles, aluminum-clad wood windows and doors, and then site work includes wood fencing, stone retaining walls, and concrete stepping stones. So the applicant provided a number of views of the property. This one shows 2 side gable roofs, larger punched openings, and a slight overhang on the right side of the house. The existing sort of engaged porch on the left side will be retained as part of this. We can see the elevations, front and rear, and then left and right. Floor plans, first and second floor. And then I just wanted to walk through this. So you can see on the block on both the east and west side, all of the houses until you get to the end of the block on Barker Street to the north were constructed in the 40s or later. So this house will not impact the view shed of any of the historic properties in the earlier development of the Capitol View Park Historic District. So again, this is the property immediately to the north at 10018 Menlo Avenue. On the upper left, you see a sort of a circa 2012 image from Google Street View. And then this is in the lower right is what it looks like today. The HPC approved a second-story addition and expansion. And then the next house further to the north at 10020 Menlo, we received a HOP in 2000. That's the image you see in the upper left. And then its appearance today on the lower right. Additionally, the applicant proposes to remove 6 trees from the property. 4 are immediately adjacent to the front and left side of the house, very close to the foundation. The other 2 are a 41-inch red oak, which is in the rear of the property, and it's leaning towards the rear neighboring house. And then a 30-inch white oak in the front and a raised planter with an impacted root system and a moderate to high risk of failure. And the applicant included those assessments as from an arborist as part of their application packet. This is the red oak on the left, which you can see is leaning away from the house towards the neighboring property, and then the white oak in the raised planter box in front. Staff finds the existing rear addition, which was constructed circa 2003, and is not at all visible from the right-of-way. Its demolition will not impact the character of the site or the surrounding district. Staff finds that the proposed materials are generally appropriate for new construction and addition in the Capitol View Park Historic District, and finds that the minor expansion of the building footprint in the rear, it appears to be minimal and will likely be appropriate. However, this alteration cannot be fully evaluated without an annotated existing and proposed drawings. We only received proposed drawings as part of the proposal. Staff finds the massing of the proposed second story will not overwhelm the character of the streetscape or the surrounding district, and both the houses to the north received HOPs for second-story additions, and the 2 houses across the street also received HOPs for either modifications or new constructions for second-story structures. Staff finds the proposed 27-foot height is consistent with the other 2-story buildings on the block, and notes that the HPC received comments from the Capitol View Park Historic District, and their comments were generally supportive of the project, but found there were some discrepancies in the way that the height was measured, and found that their recommendation was that 27 feet was too tall. They also had additional questions about the tree removal. So the questions that we're looking to address this evening are the HPC's feedback regarding the appropriateness of second floor massing, the appropriateness of the proposed architectural details and proposed materials, and any other recommended revisions or additional submissions that the HPC would like to include with the final HOP. And then staff requests feedback from the HPC regarding both the appropriateness of removing the 4 trees adjacent to the house, and the 2 larger trees. The application indicated that the applicant was either prepared to do some planting or pay a fee in lieu. Staff's recommendation in the staff report was that some planting on site was warranted, but did not come up with what that calculation should be based on the application information presented. So staff request feedback from the HPC as to what would be appropriate. Also, any feedback regarding the proposed hardscaping and fencing and the level of detail requested with a HOP. This is included in the staff report, but this is just a bullet list of additional requested information for either a subsequent preliminary consultation or a HOP as directed by the HPC, including drawings of the existing building, detailed elevation and plans with a sufficient level of detail to evaluate the work, that any renderings presented to the HPC should be shown without trees, as that's how the HPC is directed to evaluate hops, an existing site plan that shows exact tree location with the size and species of those trees identified, complete materials for the fencing, hardscaping, including the locations on a scaled site plan that includes all material specifications, and a detailed site plan that includes the location of any alterations to the hardscaping, including dimensions and appearance of any new hardscaping, significant regrading, and site walls. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Doman.
Commissioner Doman, all this is very preliminary. I mean, you don't really have anything, any definite drawings, anything to work with. We're looking at just some very sketchy drawings to make a decision on anything.
Well, so again, I mean, the purpose of this is to have a discussion with the applicant about where they are and to meet the applicant where they are. And as sort of laid out in the staff report, the level of detail of the drawings isn't sufficient to provide high-level feedback regarding the architectural detailing proposed, but there is enough to get into a conversation about the appropriateness of the new mass, of the height, of the overall size of the building addition, and then we can move on to a discussion of architectural details, whether that's at the staff level in refining the design to get to a final HOP, or whether that's the HPC's recommendation to come back for a second preliminary consultation with those revisions and any alterations made is really up to you. But we as staff sort of joke with an applicant that we'll take a preliminary consultation that's a doodle on a napkin, if that's what they're prepared to present. But understand that the feedback that the commission is going to give them is going to be based on that level of detail. So staff feels that we have enough to provide that level of feedback, and it will give the applicant enough assurance that they can proceed with those final development and revisions to do so knowing that they're on the right track or wrong track, leading to something that will be an approvable HOP.
Yes, and one of your tasks you presented to the commission is to look at the what I consider the streetscape, how this house fits in with the houses adjacent to it. I think that's one thing that we can focus on today with just some very rough sketches. So
Yeah.
but that would be discussed with the applicant. That would
Yes.
be, thanks.
Commissioner Pelletier.
Thanks. I didn't read the LAP comments. What's the issue with the height?
So in their comments, I don't have, so they identified a discrepancy in the height. The front elevation identifies, I'm sorry, it's 28 feet. The streetscape study says calls it out at 27, I believe. And then in the rear, if you look, we've got 20 feet 4 inches and then 10 feet 6 inches, which would be 31 feet at the ridge height. So the LAP had concerns about the overall height, but also wanted that discrepancy addressed as part of a conversation with the applicant.
Okay.
And wanted to note that that was discrepancy existed so that when the HOP documents come back, that they are consistent.
Okay, and the the streetscape study is not to scale, correct?
I think the elevations may be to scale, but the spacing between the buildings is not, and that's something that can be directed at the applicant.
Okay, yeah, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I do.
Commissioner Burdett?
The house dates post 1935, but sometime in that, the next 10, maybe 15 years, right? Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it's 1946.
Oh, it's 1946, okay. It looks different than its neighbors. The others are really little, cracker boxes, and this one has a little bit of a different entry, and, but the roof slopes look alike. So is it just a kind of, has somebody done something to its entry that makes it looks a little bit different than the others at some point?
Well, this has been modified, but I'll point out the house on the left there also had a side-loaded entry that's on the right side of where the address is, if you can see.
Okay.
So you can see the walkway sort of goes around that direction. Now, I believe with this piece on the left, that functionally this is their front door now.
Yeah.
But both this house and the subject property have that sort of engaged side-loaded, I mean, the subject property has a covered porch, but it's an overhang on the property up front. So, I mean, it's been modified, but there are slight differences between all three of these houses along the way. I also think that the condition of the two houses on the south is significantly better, that they've been better maintained, that, I mean, the subject property has been vacant for a significant period of time and is showing that it has significant amounts of deferred maintenance.
Okay, I understand. Looking at this, the blue house now, it looks like it could have been, once upon a time, a mirror to some
Yeah, and
degree
I mean, these
with
houses have been expanded
multiple
times before the district was established, so we don't necessarily have building records to go off of for that. Or we don't have HOP applications to go off of to evaluate how those changes were made and when they happened, because they were also after our Sanborn maps. So
Yeah.
it's a harder time to pin down some of that.
Yeah. And considering that entry porch, that little tiny entry porch I'm talking about, it looks like from their plans, that is an independent unit?
It looks like it's supposed to function as an ADU, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Galway?
This is Commissioner Galway. In your report, you had a photograph of the fence material, and it looked like it might have been located underneath the deck. And is that the only location where the fencing is being anticipated? It was a little unclear, and I may have missed it.
That's a question that's better directed at the applicant. What I will note is that the rear yard currently is overgrown with bamboo. So I mean, it may be that their proposal is to enclose the whole of the rear yard, and you just can't see that right now from what's there. So staff finds the fence design is appropriate depending on what the full extent of the fencing is. But that's something that we would need to see at the HOP application for sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions for staff, I would invite the owner or owner's representative. I have Salem Badawi. I hope I got that correct.
Yes.
If you could state that for the record in the microphone, that would be great. And you'll have 7 minutes to do any presentation that you would like to do on this.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I missed to register.
Could you
on time.
state your name first?
My name is Salim Badawi.
Thank you.
And I'm the owner of Alpha Houses LLC. It's a new construction company, and we're trying to serve two needs. First of all, build energy efficient houses, and the second thing is to build houses that can fulfill house affordability or improve house affordability. And that's why we have this in the design. You can see the ADU, the attached ADU or in-law suite, which the homeowners can use it for as accommodation for in-laws or elderlies. So that's a brief about my company. I don't know where to start with. Yeah, the house is this is a preliminary design. The design itself was inspired from a neighbor house where I live in North Kensington, where the right side of the house is kind of pushed in to the back. So that's the design that inspired me to for this house. Other than that, it's a very simple design. I try to mimic the exterior facade, which is the stucco, by using stucco hard cement panels. So they are actually the texture from outside is resembles the original stucco facade of the house. The left porch is gonna be maintained as it is for to be a separate entrance for the ADU or the in-law suite. You can see there is a retaining. Sorry, that's very close. There is a retaining wall in the front and on the right side of the house. So both are wood retaining walls. They are a bit deteriorated, so they're gonna be replaced with stone retaining walls. The fence as well. I'm not sure about the location of the fence. I don't know, which is a question, what is the requirement for the historic district? Where can I start the fence? Is it, can it be whether it needs to be let's say from the same line with the porches, where the porches are? The other thing is the trees. As you can see, the lot is heavily has heavy vegetation in the front and in the backyard. We have the 4 trees, which the staff is approving or has no objection to the removal because they are very close to the foundation. The other 2 trees, one in the backyard is a humongous tree and leaning towards the neighbor in the back, and it doesn't allow for any use of the backyard. It's a huge tree and very close to the house as well. So there is a risk of it falling, which I don't know who is gonna be liable if in case it falls on the neighbor's property. I think it's between 100 to 120 feet high. And the white oak tree in the front, it has some leaning as well. It's leaning a little bit towards the house, since I believe it the trees lean towards the light, which is south of the house, which is the backyard. So it is leaning towards the house as well. And once we build, the canopy of the tree is too large. It goes all the way to where the chimney is, the middle of the house. So once we build a second floor, the branches will be resting on the second floor, and it is as well as the light. It's gonna be blocking natural light too. But there is the lean is obvious. I don't have the pictures now, but I will certainly present them in the next application. This is the back. Yeah, you can notice the leaning of the tree in the front. Both of them are leaning towards the south, which is where the sun rises from. There is gonna be a tree that's gonna be left, which is like where I put it in the rendering. It's a healthy one. I don't know the species, but it's gonna be left, and the canopy is, I think it's like between 20 and 20 feet, 25 feet wide. So there is still gonna be enough shade in the front yard. That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Badawi? Okay. Oh, yes, Commissioner Galway.
Yes, Commissioner Galway, for the record, just to follow back up with the question that I asked staff, it looks like you're intending to use the fence in the side and in the rear, so really all three sides beyond, or at the back of the house? Is that your intent?
There is only the fence now is on one side of the house. The back, I have no idea because it's, as I said, it's heavily, there is heavy vegetation, bamboo. You can't even walk, like I got a survey, they weren't even able to go inside the backyard to know where but there is, apparently, I think there is a fence that belongs to the neighbor or the property in the rear.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Doman.
This is Commissioner Doman. I know this is. Oh.
Sorry, staff, I apologize, Commissioners.
That's part of your 7 minutes there. So I know this is only preliminary. I know you have sketches but there's a detail in here called exterior trim images on your package that you submitted, and it's called tramlin.
Yes, correct, yeah. These are the vertical.
What is that? I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, they are, so these are like they are very thin. I believe it like the width or the thickness of the profile is 3/8. So I believe they installed them between the panels because the panels shrink and expand with the change of seasons. So these are the panels the trims that go in between the cement, the hardy cement panels.
But this is, it looks like it's a large vertical panel. Is that what this is? What is your stucco? Is it on-site prepared, or does it come in a sheet or something?
It comes in sheets 4x8 sheets. So, but like some of them, they have smooth surface. Yeah. They are cement. Both are cemented. The stucco and or the other smooth ones. They are both, made from cement, and I think both are manufactured by James Hardy. James Hardy. They come, as I said, in 4x8 sheets, and this one is, the thickness is half inch. It's very heavy. They are very heavy panels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this on all of the house, or is it just on part? I can't figure out where this is actually going to be installed.
On the second story.
On the second story.
Yes.
So it faces the street also.
Yes.
And it goes around the whole house,
Yes.
second floor.
Yeah. So because we are leaving the three exterior block walls, okay, on the first level. So that the exterior or the facade of the existing facade is gonna be kept as is, which is stucco. So like the new story is where we're gonna use the panels, you call them stucco panels.
So the end result will be the appearance of custom stucco on a concrete wall or something like that.
I'm trying to complement what is existing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we will give you our feedback on this.
Sure.
First of all, let me just say that we have a very, very competent panel here that are very, very good at giving suggestions. You are not required to take our suggestions, but usually it's not a bad idea, so.
Better do
So would anyone like to kick off the discussion here? Commissioner Burdett.
Interesting. It's going to be an interesting project. I'll start with the easy, which is the trees. And obviously, you do need to remove the trees because if they haven't impacted the foundation yet, they will. I would caution to leave some trees on that property. Speaking personally, that when all of a sudden you lose your neighbor's trees and your trees, it gets really hot in your house really fast. That's what I'm dealing with after losing trees around my house. So keep them, because unless you're putting solar cells up, you'll want that shade to keep the house cooler around here. I must say I'm not particularly impressed or fond maybe of what your images and what you're thinking of doing to this house. It is going to apparently tower over the neighbors to the south and be taller than the ones to the north as well, apparently. You're taking a very small, very horizontal house and making it an exceptionally tall house. And I think that's a bit of a shame, because when I first saw the little house, my first thought was not that it was this little, we call them cracker boxes, because these post-war houses were so small, they were shaped like what were cracker boxes back in the 40s, 30s and 40s, and that's what they were called because they were tiny and simplistic. This one had a little more detailing to it, or a little more character to it, I should say, that is from the 1930s, and it's called modern, Art Deco, or streamline. Those are all three kind of interchangeable terms, but it was a very elegant style, very popular in the Midwest and West, not so much around here. It was generally, if they had roofs, they were flat roofs. They could be 2 stories. They often had second-story terraces over the first floor. The first floor roof would be a flat terrace, and then the second floor would be around, or taking use of it. And they were stucco. These houses were stucco. And at the time, they were cutting-edge modern look, because everything else looked like the house you're doing. So to me, it's like you're missing an opportunity here to kind of build on this existing house's tiny bit of existing character and making it look even more like of its era. There's a very, very nice example of what I'm talking about out on Flower Avenue. It's an Art Deco house. It has a much larger lot than you have, but they did a fabulous restoration of it, I guess probably about 10 years ago now. And they added some square footage to it, but you would never know it because they did such a lovely job. So if you're driving from Piney Branch out Flower Avenue towards Colesville, it's on your right-hand side, and it's this low-slung white house. There are a couple of other examples around the DC area, but again, it wasn't a popular style on this coast, but it was very popular in the desert Southwest. It's also very reminiscent of adobe structures in the Southwest, but also in California and Hollywood and Pasadena, those areas. It was extremely popular. So I would recommend you dig into the design pattern books and look up the 1930s houses. And they were small and very affordable. And this one, I think, kind of speaks to that era. So that'd be about it. I mean, I think you have an opportunity to do something different. and something more contemporary without necessarily being glaringly modern, glaringly, what's popular now won't be popular 10 years from now, guaranteed. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelletier?
Thanks. Sorry. I would like to see the streetscape with the houses all at the same scale. It looks like you've got the elevations in there, but the 33 feet across is the same size as the 50-something foot across. Now I can't find it in my report here. But I think there seems to be some discrepancy about the height. So if you could show more accurately what the height is going to be compared to your neighbors. Why can't I find this thing? It's in there. It's in here somewhere. But I just noticed when I was looking at it that it's not super accurate. I think probably your design would fit in fine with the neighbors if it was shown in the proper scale on this drawing. So I would just encourage you to get a little more accurate on the streetscape drawing.
If I may, like accurate in terms of what exactly? Because we got, the width and the height is, dimensions of the houses are accurate measurements.
Oh, no, I don't doubt they're accurate measurements, but I found it. I'm looking at 1008 Menlo Avenue, and it's 54 feet wide. But if you measure that 54 feet and you put it next to your 42'8", it's smaller than the house that you are showing. I'm just saying, make it all the right scale. You got some, they're smaller.
I believe the architect did that to be able to fit it in one.
I know, but it doesn't,
otherwise,
it kind of defeats the purpose of doing it.
When he sent it to me, it was extremely tiny. It was very, very tiny, and you couldn't even see the measurements. So I'm the one who asked him, to edit it so that you can see the measurements, you can see the look of the.
Okay, well, it kind of defeats the purpose of doing it if the houses aren't all at the same scale. And so what I'm saying is that if they were all at the same scale, I think you would find that they're quite proportional to each other, and it would make your case better, is what I'm saying. Because right now you're showing these teeny tiny houses on the left, and they're not that small. They're much bigger than you're showing them.
Yeah, true.
And so you're making your house look enormous, and it's really not.
Yeah,
So,
the house you mentioned is 54 feet wide,
Right.
but mine is 43.
right.
Yeah.
So if you showed it at 54 feet next to your smaller house, I think you'd have a more convincing streetscape. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, in general, I think we just need some more details on, I would be curious to know how you're going to meet the old stucco with the new. What is that? Are you putting a piece of trim there? If you're saving
I included one. There is one picture of how it could look like. It's like that. There is one house that is beige color with.
Okay, wait, let me go back. Patio images, retaining walls, proposed fencing, rear terrace door,
Should be in the
back patio door.
in the siding section.
Section. That's brick.
Yeah, it is brick.
I don't see it, but that doesn't mean it's not here. Page 25, but that's brick and panel. So this is the panel system that you're talking about using, right? So I would just like to know how the old stucco is going to meet the new panels and how you're going to make that joint. You don't have to tell me now. I'm just saying for your next iteration for staff to look at, I think that's an important detail to show. But I think in general, the massing and the plan, and I think it has possibilities. We just don't know that much about it right now. And I don't have any issue with the trees I mean, big trees next to the house is just a dangerous thing. And just looking at the pictures of the existing condition, they don't look like lovely trees. They look like you could probably plant nicer trees after you finish the house. So I have no issue with trees, so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I have a comment regarding the height. So the height is 20, the proposed height is 28 feet. The two houses on the north side, both are 27 feet, and they're both on higher elevation. So even though the house itself is gonna be one foot taller, it's gonna be still shorter given the elevation, because it is 4 feet, like the elevation of the house itself, where it's located, is like 4 feet lower than the adjacent house.
I don't have an issue with the height. I have an issue with your study. Because it's not making your case in your packet.
Yeah,
Like, you're better off not putting that in there, because the photos that you're showing are a lot more convincing, I think.
I didn't know that, like, the purpose of, of course, I spoke with Dan, and I thought, like, of course, I know, like, the main point is the massing, to judge the massing as in comparison with the other, with the neighboring properties, but I thought it also has something to do with the design itself, whether, it shows, like, the different designs on the street, as Dan showed, but yeah, certainly.
Well, I guess that is relevant, but normally when you put in the streetscape study, it's to show how your house fits in with the other houses, and the only way to see that is if they're all kind of at the same scale. So, but like I said, the photos tell the story, but I would almost take that drawing out or make it more accurate. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Anyone else?
Are we just talking to the applicant, or are we doing considerations?
No, we've asked questions, now we're making suggestions.
So this is time for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say I did drive past your house and the property, and to follow up on Commissioner Pelletier's point that your little sketch doesn't look quite right, but when you actually drive down the street, you can see the houses to the north of yours are very large, very prominent, and the ones to the south or the left of your house look smaller, but they're ranch houses. Across the street, there are some very large houses also. So the point on massing that you are proposing for your house, I think, is compatible with the neighbors' houses, and I think you're compatible with the houses across the street. So I think that issue, I'm happy with what your design is, and I think the size of your house is appropriate. Like you said, the ones to the north might be a foot lower, but the hill also goes up a little bit, so the houses look a lot larger than what you're proposing. So I'm happy with what you're putting forth. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So you have what we have suggested here. There's a record of all of our recommendations. You can get that from the staff, and I think that you got the sense that we think you're heading in the right direction.
Great.
Some details I think need to be worked out. I think we all agree that the trees can go. I made a good case for that, and we look forward to seeing this.
Great.
Do you have any questions for us before we're done?
Yes, yeah, regarding the trees and the fence again. So, like, I understand that I either need to plant trees to make up for the lost ones. So in this case, like, any recommendation on the species that I can plant, and, like, my vision, of course, is that I would plant them in the backyard, because since there is enough space for that. But any suggestions? I have no idea about trees and the kind of trees.
my understanding, you had someone look at the trees and say that they're inappropriate. You might want to start there.
Okay,
Say
all right.
what
So
seems
check
to be,
with the arborist?
what seems to be the
Okay.
best species to put in this, on this property. I think that might be the best way to start. And staff can help you with that too, right?
Okay. And for the fence, is there like a
We
starting?
have standards for fence. They will help you with that.
Okay.
We have certain height that we generally approve, certain types that we approve, and they can help you with that as well.
Sounds good, okay. All right.
Chair Sutton, lastly, the staff recommendation is that the applicant either return for a hop or a second preliminary consultation based on the HPC's opinion. But we didn't get an opinion from any of the commissioners as to whether or not they thought that, whether they were recommending one direction or the other, or if they should rely on staff's recommendation as it reviews design revisions, or how best to proceed.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that everybody sort of agreed that this is moving in the right direction. It's not something.
I can add, Commissioner Nasser.
Okay.
I think they can come for a second preliminary.
Okay.
I don't even know where the existing footprint of the building is right now. You need more information to understand what's changing, what's the addition, what's the expansion, and I think if we have a second preliminary, that would be great.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else have a recommendation? Okay. So I think we're in agreement that you're moving in the right direction, but it probably would be helpful to work with staff and come with another preliminary, and then we can refine that and hopefully get very close to a historic area work permit.
Well, that would be disappointing, honestly, because, I mean, this is, of course, like, like the time it takes, of course, it certainly costs us money, and I'm working closely with Dan, and the architect. Like, I thought I provided like a complete application with as much details as we could provide. I mean, the site plan shows the existing structure of the house, the dimensions and everything. Pictures are available.
I can give you a simple example. The windows you're proposing right now in your drawings, my understanding was this is very preliminary, so you don't have any mountains, you don't show if they're overhang, double hang, or, sorry, if they're double hang, if they're, the type of windows, it's not clear. And there's much more detail that would add to the drawing and that would add to the character of the building.
Well, I included there are like 2 pages of information about the windows, and the profile of the window. They are casement, a combination of casement and fixed windows.
Oh, sorry, so your drawing doesn't show it, I missed that.
Yeah, but like in the
But in
material and
general,
specification sheet.
the existing footprint of the building is not clear, to me at least. I don't know if the other commissioner agree, but the information that is missing from the package.
On the elevation, on the elevations?
Plans and existing plans, existing elevations, what you're adding to the elevation, what you're adding to the plan, what you're proposing, any changes to the site plan, if you're adding any walkways, driveways, or anything like that.
Not adding any driveways. No driveways will be added. Yeah, but I would hope that I would, come back for the hub permit after I consider, all the feedback that the commission will present.
And
I think if
staff-
you're
staff will
confident that
help-
you can
Staff will help
come back with
identify the
enough-
level of detail that is expected for an application, and we'll provide that to the applicant.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
I trust that staff can help you with what
We will make sure
information you
that we have all that information moving forward.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, next item is number 3B. This is also a preliminary preliminary consultation, 8827 Hawkins Lane and Chevy Chase. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chair. This is the preliminary consultation for 8827 Hawkins Lane and Chevy Chase. It is the building you see in front of you, a small vernacular side gable cottage. House was constructed circa 1938. All buildings in Hawkins Lane are identified as contributing resources to the district because the setting is identified as the most significant feature of the district. This is to be reviewed under the Hawkins Lane Historic District Design Guidelines Handbook, Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. And the applicant proposes to construct an addition at the rear of the existing house, replace the existing windows, and replace trim and siding where necessary. Again, this is the subject property. It has a twin to the south, which is on the right. Here you see it's a very simple shingle-sided side gable house with a very small front porch. In the rear, concrete basement foundation and double-hung 6/6 sash windows throughout. So again, this is the proposed rear addition. It will effectively double the size of the house. Hard CMU foundation, shingle siding, aluminum-clad wood windows, and a very, very low-pitched gable roof to the rear, a rear balcony. So we'll just walk through the plans. Again, the basement plan, which has a small kitchen and living area in it currently, will be expanded out. The first floor will go from a living and 2 bedrooms to basically a single open space. And then the second floor plan becomes 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and laundry facilities. Staff finds that the proposed footprint is similar in size to the approved addition to the house in the south. Again, that was a twin. The proposed application is 20 by 20. The neighboring property was 19 feet wide by 16 feet deep, and that was a 2009 HPC approval. Staff finds the proposed roof form to be incompatible with the house's vernacular architecture and its steeper original gable, and staff finds that this roof form does not complement the massing of the existing structure as outlined in the design guidelines. Additionally, staff finds that there's no delineation or differentiation between the proposed addition and the historic construction. Staff finds the proposed materials for the addition, including cedar shake siding, aluminum-clad wood windows, asphalt shingles, and a Parge CMU foundation, are all appropriate for the subject property and would recommend their approval at a hop. Staff finds the existing wood windows have suffered from significant deferred maintenance, but the extent of their damage was not documented in the application. Additionally, staff finds that the proposed trim and siding replacement would be considered an in-kind work that does not require a hop, but is eligible for the county historic preservation tax credit. So staff recommends revisions to the design of the rear addition's roof to make it compatible with the house's traditional architecture. And staff finds the shed dormer design used at the neighboring house to be a successful way of retaining the character of the house while allowing significant occupiable space on the second floor. So for the questions for the HPC in this preliminary consultation is, does the HPC concur with staff's finding that the proposed roof form is incompatible? And if so, do they concur with staff's recommendation, or is there an alternative solution that they would recommend instead? Does the HPC concur with staff's finding regarding the proposed material? And are there any other recommended revisions or alterations? Additionally, does the HPC concur with staff's finding that the applicant has not met their burden of persuasion regarding existing window removal? And if so, what level of documentation is necessary to evaluate that condition? In the staff report, staff notes that Hawkins Lane is designated historic for its social history, not for its architectural history. And should that have an impact on the level of documentation required? And then lastly, does the HPC concur with staff's requirement that the applicant provide measured drawings of both an existing window and the proposed to effectively evaluate the changes in dimensions and profiles? And then staff identified a list of additional requested information with a hop, including the treatment of the existing basement window that appears to be, or are there any basement windows that need to be enlarged to satisfy egress requirements? It appears that one room will be a bedroom, and staff is unsure if the openings satisfy code. Does the proposal retain the existing chimney? The drawings conflict. And then it appears that the new stairs, which are not so steep, will satisfy current code, but it also appears that they'll cross an existing basement window, and how will that detail be treated? And lastly, the site plan, or not lastly, but the site plan shows 2 tree removals that will be needed to accommodate the addition, information regarding their size, species, location, and any replantings on site will be required with the HOP. And then also staff has questions regarding whether or not there'll be any new or altered hardscaping on the site. And then as far as satisfying zoning requirements, what is the existing lot coverage and what will the proposed lot coverage be on the lot? And with that, I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Doman.
This is Commissioner Doman. It's kind of an unusual question, but I did drive down and take a look at Hawkins Lane. I went all the way down to the end. I saw this little house down here, and it's in very, very, very bad shape. But when I used Google Maps, it actually shows all the houses that are on the west of Hawkins Lane in the park. It doesn't show it as being private property or something. Is Google Maps leading me incorrect on how the property is designated?
Yes. So, I mean, actually, if you look at the map in front of you, there's a heritage area that's immediately outside of the Hawkins Lane Historic District. That's why it's shaded in yellow. But Hawkins Lane is a privately owned road, and all of the houses along there are also privately owned, and they're zoned accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, that's on the staff report, it shows it all being there. Google Maps says this is Park District. So anyway, and also in your staff report, it goes to the east quite a bit, and there's some larger houses in there. Have those houses been reviewed under our Historic Preservation Commission guidelines?
I mean, as I pointed out, the house to the south has, but the district was established in 1991, so several of those changes have been reviewed. But the district is only, it's the houses on the west side of the lane and the houses on the east side of the lane, and then there are 2 additional houses that face Jones Bridge Road. But that's the extent of the district. So not, I mean, there are additions and alterations to the houses that predate the establishment of the historic district, but there are other things, including the addition to the house in the south, which you see in the image before you, that were reviewed and approved by the HPC with hops.
Okay, well, it's the house on, I guess it's Jones Bridge Road. I mean, those are fairly large houses out there on the corner. I mean, I'm off topic, so.
I mean, so yes, the brick house that faces Jones Bridge Road is part of the district, and it was built 20 years later than this property. But it was part of the whole Hawkins family's development of this lane and the African American kinship community that is the foundation of this district.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Commissioner Pelletier?
I've driven by this before when we had other properties, but I didn't drive by this time. This house is vacant, I assume, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and has been for some time. I didn't include the images in the presentation, but in the application, there were some interior photos that show just how abandoned the house is.
Okay, thanks.
If there aren't any more questions for staff, I would invite property owner. I have Adiri Chittapun, is that correct?
Good evening. My name is Adisra Jodopan.
If you could sit,
Commissioners and staff.
you can sit down,
Thank you.
please, and if you could make sure the mic is on and state your name for the record.
Yes.
And you can have 7 minutes to do a presentation to us if you'd like. And
Unfortunately, I did not prepare any slides or
Okay.
presentation.
so we will hopefully ask you some questions. Any questions?
Yes, please. I'll be happy to give any brief introduction
Great.
if you like.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could. I think we'd like to hear that.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much, commissioners and staff, for meeting me this evening. So just to also let you know that I am closing on the property, so officially not the owner as of present, but I am closing on 8827 Hawkins Lane, Chevy Chase, Maryland. So I just want to state that for the fact as well. This will serve as a residential for my family. And we intend to absolutely keep the sanctity and preserve the historical nature of the home, be as compliant as possible. At the same time, we want to make sure that in terms of any modifications, renovations that we do to them, since it has been sitting there for quite some time, I believe over 30 years or greater, unfortunately, as you can see, it has, deteriorated. And so we truly want to be able to preserve for legacy to come for my family, for myself, the home in, Hawkins Lane, and be able to, respect and honor the area.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Anyone want to? Yeah, okay, here we go. Questions?
Okay, one question. It was brought up by staff earlier, but there is a chimney, and the chimney goes down to the first floor, but it's not showing up on your plans. So what are you doing about the chimney?
Yes, again, we want to be as consistent in compliance. Essentially, the indoor chimney, that will be removed because it is deteriorating, whereas on the top exterior, the supplement, that will be preserved, again, to be in conformance with historical compliance. And that's the documentation as per the staff shared with me. So we will maintain that, if that makes sense.
It does, but that isn't a particularly easy thing to do because of the weight of the brick and the steel you need to have underneath it to hold it up. So think about that. I mean, we recently dealt with that on another preliminary, and the amount of steel that was going to be required to replace the masonry underneath was extensive. That was a much larger chimney than you've got, but still, it's got to be calculated into what is happening below and space for that steel to go down to the foundation.
Are there any parameters, dimensions that we also need to take into account, or is that something I should consult with staff?
With
more
staff
extensively?
and a structural engineer.
Instructional engineer, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's, would anyone like to kick off the discussion here? Commissioner Burdett.
This is so interesting, because it's a charming, tiny little house. And when we talk about attainable housing and affordable housing, well, that's kind of what affordable housing was back in the 30s. And it was pretty nice probably back in the 30s too. Nowadays, of course, it would be wholly inadequate for anything but a vacation home for one person, a camp house for one person. I really don't have an issue with the amount of square footage you're adding to the back of the house, simply because, you need it to make this thing a house, a contemporary house. But I have to agree with staff that the roof in the back on the addition is not working. It's just, the pitch is too flat for what the house is. I mean, you've kept the ridge line of the new with the old, and that's good. And I understand the issues you have with this. I mean, you've got to figure out how to get headroom up there and all. And I'm thinking one of two things. One is a kind of a faux mansard roof that would come down at a shallow pitch and then angle at a pitch that would look like it's more in keeping with the original, of the pitch of the original.
Yes, Commissioner, we did actually
Try
go
that.
back and forth with the architect on that, and just from a visual perspective, we were not in agreement.
Okay.
But then we also knew that this probably would be addressed during today's
Yeah.
discussion.
Because I think then you could put shed dormers on the mansard at that point, and it's kind of a faux look, but you would get headroom. The one issue you're going to have is that stairway has got to move to the center of the house, I think is what you really.
Are you referencing to the one that's going downstairs or upstairs? Upstairs.
Upstairs, yeah.
Upstairs, so.
Simply because it's going to, that pitch of anything is going to interfere with that. And, you know, your second floor plan is nicely laid out, but I think you're going to need to shift that stair inward to make it work. But that'd be my only comment, because really, that and the chimney, you might consider just bringing masonry down and keeping it as a post, because that's going to get complicated. But other than that, if you guys can come up with a roof plan that looks a little better, more in keeping, and with some shed dormers, they'll probably look fine.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Doman.
It's Commissioner Doman.
Good evening, Commissioner.
I also echo Commissioner Burnett's comment about the roof line and staff on the roof line. I think the one to the south of you, the house that has a gable roof with dormers on, I think that would be an appropriate way to go.
That would be appropriate, Commissioner?
For, as far as I'm concerned,
Okay.
yes, I like the design. I think the staff has kind of hinted that that would be something that you could consider. And I also have to say, I think this is, I drove past the house, and it is in very bad shape, as you probably know. And I would curious what the inside looked like, but you have a lot of work ahead of you. So
Yes, we do.
I wish you good luck on it. That's all.
Thank you. No, again, it's been sitting for quite some time, and we know the kind of background history behind it. You know, I feel and I support for the previous family, and so, you know, we spoke to the previous owner, you know, intimately, and really expressed genuinely that we want to really preserve, because I love the home. That's what appealed to me. You could see the cottage, you know, feel it definitely. So we really want to maintain that as much as possible, but understandably know that there are going to be some limitations, and we need to work around that.
Commissioner Pelletier.
What am I trying to say?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think you could, I mean, I appreciate they're trying to max out the second floor. And I think you could handle a lot of this shed dormer, because the roof that you have on there now is basically a shed dormer roof. It's just that it goes all the way to the existing house. If, like Commissioner Burdett said, if you move this stair more to the center of the house where you have higher, like where the pitch, you know, in the back goes, you could have big shed dormers in the back, so that you can, if you pushed it back a little, or you put in a sort of a faux overhang that kind of kept the line of the existing house like the one next door, you could, with some exterior design changes, like more trim-related kinds of things, you could get quite a lot of space out of the second floor. Like, I don't think you'd have to go as small of a shed dormer as the next door neighbor has, but yeah, like, I think if you have a good designer, they can make the house look like it has shed dormers, and when you get inside, it's more spacious. So I think there's ways of doing it visually that you wouldn't have to sacrifice a ton of space, but you might have to move the stair more towards the center.
And I appreciate that we actually didn't consider that. So we were playing back and forth, my family and I, as to figure out how are we going to maximize that top floor, because it is pretty condensed
Yeah.
space. So I appreciate Commissioner and staff providing that, proposing that suggestion. So that's really great.
The other thing that we usually focus on is that the addition inset a little bit from the original house. I tend to think you can take care of that differentiation with like a piece of vertical trim that says this is the old and this is the new. And I think on this house, because it's so tiny, you could probably get away with that, but there should be some kind of differentiation in some way between the old and the new, even if you make it the same width of the house.
Commissioner, does that need to go by for a subsequent evaluation to be able to differentiate between the two, original?
Well, I think you can work with staff. I think that it's a common thing with, the addition on this particular teeny tiny house is really big. And so I think to minimize it, like visually, there are definitely visual tricks that you can do if you're gonna make it that big to make it integrate a little bit better with, instead of just having this big addition stuck on the back, where you can follow some lines of the existing house and sort of work it out. So I would work it out with staff, but I think there's things that you can do with the design that you have that will help bring it together a little bit better on the exterior.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to add.
Commissioner Nasser.
I don't want to repeat everything that other commissioners said. I appreciate the design. It's very lovely. It's kept the character of the original building.
Thank you.
And I think if you just make the changes that the other commissioners recommended, it would be a great project.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Commissioner. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to sharing with the commission and staff the outcome. Absolutely.
Commissioner Galway.
It's Commissioner Galway. First of all, thank you for preserving the home. I mean, it's just such an adorable, and I'm looking at it as what it will be, maybe not the condition today, but it's important that we save these buildings, and so thank you for that. I'm a little more passionate, I think, about if you go to item 9 in the Secretary of the Interior standards, and I'll just kind of paraphrase it here. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with massing, size, and scale. And we often do see, I think maybe trying to use a trim piece just to differentiate might be really difficult. If you look at the home to your right facing, it looks as if they may have set it in. It's hard to tell on the cover of the report, but it looks like they set it back in. And we have seen tricks like you'd set it in and then bring it back out to the same plane. So I would ask that you look at that. Also, I know you're really pushed on height, but oftentimes we'll see a ridge that is a little bit lower than the existing ridge. And I think as you study that, if it cannot be seen from the street, then there's some latitude there. If it's something that, again, appears as if it's the same ridge, it's hard to differentiate the old from the new. So I think look at that when you come back. And then what was one other thought I had, and I'm going to blank on it.
I can come back, Commissioner.
Yeah.
It happens to me as well.
It's old age. Yeah, in terms of the materials, also, it's important to try to somehow differentiate. So when you're driving up the street and you see the home, you can tell right away that the little jewel box in the front, that is the original, and you've complemented it with your addition to the back. The thing I did remember, I don't think it works currently with your plan, but it looks like the grade drops off fairly significantly, and I know there are ADA issues, but is there a possibility, just a question, is there a possibility to add a riser or two and actually take advantage of the grade by allowing the back end maybe to drop down a little bit where you can drop the roof line and still get the height that you're looking for. So I don't know
I
if-
believe so. I think what commissioners have all, expressed this evening, we could definitely take that all into consideration. I think it's pretty uniform.
That's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to say a couple things. First of all, I think you're very fortunate. The house next door, I think they did a really lovely job with the addition, and I think anything that you can mimic, not completely, but sort of the same thing. It really very successful on the house next door. I'm a little concerned about the windows. That was one of the things that staff brought up. I think before you can just wholesale say we need to replace all the windows, we need to have a little bit more information. They might be completely gone, and if they are, we don't want you to have to, piecemeal everything together, but we need to have, I think we need to have very good documentation about existing windows, whether they are salvageable or not. And we, I think, would take the recommendation of staff on that, but that's one thing you need to keep in mind.
So a prerequisite, you'd like to know what the current pre-existing state of the windows, the condition, correct?
Yes.
As it is?
Yes, and I think we would take, if staff said they're beyond repair, need to be replaced, fine. If some can be repaired, some not, but that's something that I think is very important for us to look at.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And one comment in reference to that, my family and I, we were considering double panning. I think that was mentioned in the documentation, single panning or double panning. So with single panning, the susceptibility of mold and that could arise, or external factors that could further cause it.
There are a lot of things that are involved in and you can help us with that. Anyone else?
And Chair Sutton, if I can just jump in.
Yeah.
Once you have keys, I would be happy to come to a site visit in the interior, and we can talk about, well, one, I can examine the condition of the windows from the inside, but we can talk about what else is available or could be successful.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing this. This is a
Thank
lovely,
you, I appreciate it.
wonderful
Yes.
district, wonderful house. We are
you.
thrilled. I think I can speak for all of us. We're thrilled that you have taken this on.
Thank you.
Because it's a very important part of this district, so
And
thank
having
you.
that conversation, as I mentioned, with the former owner, that definitely, it was very, as well as you could see, it was very sentimental to her. It had a lot of family attachments, a history, so she didn't want to let that go. But, we actually met with her one-on-one, spoke with her. We have a small family, and, we love the area very much so. So, and I adore that home very much, so we're hoping to really.
You're going to have fun with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, next item on our agenda are historic preservation tax credits. Is there a staff report on this?
Yes, Chair, there is. So this round, Group 8 of the Historic Preservation Tax Credits includes 8 applications with a total approved amount of $212,842. And this will be also the final transmittal to the Department of Finance.
Do you happen to have the total of all of the tax credit projects together? If you don't, that's okay, but.
We do not, Chair Sutton, not
Okay.
tonight, but I'm happy to email it.
No,
to
no,
all the
that's fine,
commissioners.
that's fine. I just was curious. I've been sort of following them along, but my little feeble brain doesn't keep track of everything like that.
In a typical year, you approve between $4 and $6 million in
Right.
eligible expenses, so we're on track for that.
Terrific. So what we need to do as a commission is, number one, do we approve this batch of tax credits? I make a motion that we approve the tax credits. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Burdett. I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The second thing is we need to transmit these applications to the County Department of Finance, and I make a motion that we submit these to the County Department of Finance.
This is Commissioner Burdett. I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So this is a very successful year, I think. Next item on our agenda is minutes from September 18. There we go. Has anyone reviewed the minutes and would like to make a motion?
This is Commissioner Burdett. I read the minutes, and I make a motion that we approve the minutes of
Is there
September 18th.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Haynes, I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Minutes have been approved. Are there any commission items? And I believe there are one or two staff items.
Yes, Chair Sutton. The first staff item is the adoption of the 2025 HPC meeting calendar. The draft was included in your board book, and we just need a motion to adopt.
Has anyone looked at this? I have. I make a motion, I make a motion that we adopt the meetings for 2025.
This is Commissioner Burdett. I second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. This has been approved as well. Any other commission staff items?
Two more items. The next item, I will forward the invitation to all of the commissioners. There is an event being co-sponsored with the Smithsonian next Monday evening to celebrate the history of the Scotland AME Zion Church. There is no fee to attend the event, but you do need to RSVP for it. I am unfortunately not able to attend that evening, but it would be wonderful to have a good showing of preservation partners. And the program is going to be really good. It's about the history of the Scotland Church as a lens to understand civil rights and African American history over the last century. This year, 2024, is the 100th anniversary of the building of the church. It was first built in 1924, and so Scotland, as part of the rebuilding project, has branded a lot of their fundraising and organizing and advocacy efforts as the Second Century Project. So this evening of programming at the Smithsonian will also commemorate Scotland Church's moving into its second century. So I'll forward that.
Okay.
And then our last item is just a programming note that the annual Montgomery History Conference is next Saturday, October the 19th. There's a nominal fee to register. I think it's 25, 30, no, Vice Chair is shaking her head no. How? It's $75. Okay.
That's not nominal.
It's not.
But you do get access to all the recordings of all the sessions for a year following the conference. So that in itself, you can, at your leisure, watch all of the other sessions, because the way they do it, they do breakouts, and you only get to see 3, so there's 6 you will not get to see. So that in itself, you are paying, yes, to see all of the programs, whereas in person, you only get to see a portion of them.
I believe that also includes lunch.
And and you get a box lunch, too.
You get lunch,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Usually it's pretty good, too.
Yeah. It's a great conference, too. A lot of the county council members come. The county executive tends to come with his staff. It's extraordinarily well attended. It's actually one of my favorite conferences that we have around here. So that's just a reminder that that is next Saturday for those who want to attend.
Do they offer AIA credit or any of that sort of thing?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't believe so. No, but I can find out.
You can always self-report. I'm just curious if, you can't get the health, safety, and welfare ones through self-report. So I was just sort of curious.
I can check.
Okay.
Anything else?
That is my last staff item.
Thank you. Anything else from commission? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.